Hi everyone, my name is Nick, and today we're going to talk about popular plants that I personally don't really care for. I was a little apprehensive to make this video because it could be seen as a little negative or a tad hateful, but the deciding factor was not only was this a video that was requested by many, but we're throwing shade towards plants and not people. So all in good fun. I'm going to try to be as lighthearted as possible. I'm so positive I feel like on YouTube, I think it would be kind of fun to go in the opposite direction for a video. And it's kind of difficult to do this video because I don't have any of these plants because I don't like them. And I would normally reach out to my peers on Instagram and say like, hey, can I borrow this photo for a video I'm doing? But I didn't want to reach out to anybody and be like, hey, I'm making a video about plants I don't like. Can I use your photo? Because that's just rude. This video in general is already rude enough. So yeah, bear with me. I'm going to have to use some Google stock images. I'm so sorry if anybody gets offended or if I break any hearts throughout this video. I'm sure it's inevitable. But like I said, all in good fun. So let's just go ahead and get started. So the first plant we're going to talk about today that is a popular plant that I personally just don't give a rat's ass about is Calathea ornata. And this is probably the only one on this list that I actually genuinely like the way it looks, but I hate everything else about it. I hate its attitude. It has such a piss poor attitude. I can't stand it. Calatheas in general, or prayer plants, are not easy ones to grow. They do require a little bit more maintenance and just like care overall. But Calathea ornata is a very unforgiving prayer plant, and unfortunately, it seems to be one that many people want. And not that it's unfortunate, it's a beautiful plant, and it's one that I will personally still sell in the store, even though I hate everything about it other than the way it looks, because of the way it looks. People are head over heels for it, and they always sell. I'll get a case and it'll be gone by the end of the weekend, or I'll just have a few left. It's pretty rare that it's not the first plant to sell out. And it's just like, I wish something a little bit more hardy was a little bit more popular in that sense. So I always keep them right at the front of the store on the first shelf because they just catch everybody's eye and they just fly off the shelf. It's crazy, but it's a really beautiful plant. Don't get me wrong. It's just, they deteriorate so quickly and so not gracefully that it's just like basically like you're buying future garbage. So I don't feel confident about Calathea ornata in any sense except for the way it looks, because it's absolutely beautiful, and I just think it's one that many beginner gardeners probably walk into a plant shop and see and they really want to try it, and it's just like so heartbreaking when they just die very quickly. So yeah, I'm not really a big fan of that one. I like a bunch of other Calatheas. I have a really nice Calathea orbifolia behind me. It just put off a giant new leaf and I'm obsessed with it. That's a much more hardy Calathea, although with Calatheas in general, you're always going to have a little bit of browning. I'm not sure if you guys can see that far into the frame, but there's always going to be a little bit of browning here and there. But the Calathea ornata, there's just always excessive browning, and I just can't handle it myself. So moving on. The second one, I actually have this one. This is the only one on this list that I actually have in my possession. And this is the Ficus lyrata, or the fiddly fig. I hate this plant. It's just so overrated. This is a plant that was very popular a couple of years ago, and I feel like it's still holds that popularity to a sense. It's actually funny though. I'm saying that because I don't even sell this plant at the store where I work because it doesn't sell. Like, honestly, it does not sell. I'll buy it 4-inch, 6-inch. It will not sell. Only people come in every now and again and they're looking for a large tree and we'll order it in for them. But unless I get them by mistake, which happens a lot for some reason, I do not order Ficus lyrata. It's just so temperamental. This thing is a creature of habit, and out of all the ficus I've grown in my home, this is the one that just seems to be the least forgiving. I mean, there's more ficus out there that are even more unforgiving, like the Ficus benjamina, which is a very fine-leaved ficus, and you can just look at that thing and it'll drop leaves. But this one is no piece of cake either. I've had this one for a couple of years, and I've just recently like let it go, I'll be honest. But besides that, in the store when I'm caring for them, they just drop leaves like nothing. They just love to drop leaves, and it's so unfortunate because unlike the Ficus benjamina, if you lose a couple of those tiny leaves, it's okay. But with this Ficus lyrata, once you start to lose a couple of these gigantic leaves, you're really going to have a pretty bare and ugly looking plant. So honestly, this is probably going to go in the trash after I'm done filming this. It's only got these 2 leaves left that don't even look that good. But it's just very temperamental. It's a plant, once again, similar to the Calathea ornata. I'm kind of rambling at this point, but it's a plant that Some of the Calathea ornata is very popular, and I feel like people want it when they are just first starting out their plant journey, and it's one that can really break some hearts because it's very easy to kill if you don't know what you're doing, and just a little bit of neglect or a little too much love can really send this plant in a downward spiral. Speaking of Ficus lyrata, there's another popular plant. I don't know if it's really that popular, but I keep seeing it on Instagram, and it's just like, I don't understand it. It's the variegated Ficus lyrata, and that thing is a pretty penny, let me tell you. I've never seen it for less than a couple $100, and it always looks bad. Like, it always is brown. Like, I feel like Ficus lyrata enough gets like brown markings on it just from like sun damage and that, but the variegated version just never looks good. And I'm a little biased. I'm not a lover of variegated plants. I'm really into like that kind of like very, I don't know how to word it, like brushstrokey variegation, like on the Syngonium alba variegatum or like the Monstera deliciosa alba variegatum. They have some really nice variegation. But that kind of variegation isn't really necessarily my cup of tea. And with that kind of price tag, I'd like it to look a little bit better myself. The next one's kind of very similar in that aspect of like an overrated, overpriced plant. It's the Monstera obliqua. And all I have to say really about that is be happy with your Monstera adansonii. I'm so mind blown why people are so like crazy about the Monstera obliqua. I guess it's because it's like rare, but I feel like that's the only reason. Like, it's literally a Monstera adansonii just with like different features. So it just mind boggles me that people are willing to spend so much money on a plant that's, first of all, meant to be in like a greenhouse setting or like a botanical garden setting. So it's like not something I would personally want to grow in my home because I would kill it. It's just, I don't understand. To each their own. If people want to spend mass amounts of money on their plants, that's fine. I'm sure people from the outside might view me as that way because I do have a large collection, but I've never spent more than $100 on a plant before. I'm actually very picky, and any of my more rare plants I've actually traded for. So it's kind of like you start out with something and then you trade for something else and you trade for something else, or you grow them out and you cut them and you trade them. So you can grow your collections by that, and that's a really good tip for you if you're looking to collect some rare plants. Maybe start with one that you get a hold of, and then maybe grow that one out and take some cuttings and start to use that one to start to trade for other plants. I think that's a really good tip. But yeah, I just don't understand the hype aside Monstera obliqua. I almost think it's like because people confused the name obliqua and adansonii like for so long that people maybe want the actual obliqua. I don't really get it, but it's just mind-boggling to me. The next one boggles my mind even more. It is... I gotta tone it down because I don't want to sound rude. This plant, though, I do not understand why this plant is so popular. Fortunately, the price has plummeted over the last couple of months, but when this plant first dropped, it was like well over $100, and I just don't get it. I'm an influencer, I'm a buyer, and this is one plant that I just do not see the appeal in. It's the Philodendron Birkin. It is a canna lily. It looks just like a canna lily. I'll put a picture on screen if you're unfamiliar, but this plant is literally a canna lily. Like, I cannot tell the difference. Okay, it looks like a canna lily combined with a Philodendron Congo, and that's all I see, and canna lilies are not exciting to me, and Philodendron Congos are not exciting to me. So Philodendron Birkin's not exciting for me. And a canna lily, you can purchase that at for $5 or less at your local Home Depot, or even at the plant shop where I work, which is, a small business, so it's not necessarily inexpensive. Canna lilies are not pricey plants. Yet the Philodendron Birkin was, or I was going to say is, but I think it was at this point. I think it's been, at this point, offered for typically $25 or less for a 4-inch pot. But 6 months ago, that thing was like $100 plus, and still to this day, I will not be spending $25 on this plant. I will not be spending $4 on this plant because I don't really want a canna lily in my home. So let's just stop there before I get my ass handed to me. Okay, so the next one it's kind of a little bit more broad. It's Alocasia anything. I don't like alocasias. I've never been a fan of alocasias. I was a fan of alocasias, and I was a fan of alocasias until I tried growing them in my home. I've really only tried growing Alocasia poly in my home, but I've thrown out a bunch of them in the store, let's put it that way. So although I grow specific plants in my home, I also care for plants in the store where I work, and depending on how well they sell or how well they don't sell, I get more experience growing them. And alocasias don't necessarily sell that well, which is kind of funny because I feel like they are popular plants, but similar to the fiddle leaf fig, just does not seem to really sell for me. So I've cared for a bunch of alocasias. They are finicky creatures. They love to yellow their lower leaves and fall off, and then you're left with less than what you purchased, and they just don't seem to chug out the leaves quick enough to hold up to it. And mind you, the conditions that I have at the shop where I work are better than the conditions I have in my home. So I should be having better luck growing the alocasia there, but even in the store, they are tough cookies. So I'm really not a fan. But like I said, I've only tried the poly in my home, but that aside, they are pest magnets. Spider mites, thrips, whiteflies, we've had it all at the plant shop. I'm a little apprehensive to even purchase them this upcoming summer because of that reason. I will have to though, because I think it's something I have to order, but oh, it drives me crazy. In the home, I've always had spider mites. Like, I can't get rid of them, and it's crazy because they have very thick, leathery leaves, at least the Alocasia polys, which is the one that I was growing in my home. And usually my thick, leathery leaves are okay. The spider mites don't want them, but for some reason, they just love the Alocasia poly. But there are so many other popular varieties of alocasia I see out there that I really just couldn't give a hoot about, like the Alocasia cuprea or the Alocasia silver dragon or anything like that. The only one that really looks good to me is the Alocasia Friedek or Frydek. I don't know how to pronounce it, but it's a really beautiful velvety alocasia with kind of like a white center. It's like the Philodendron glory of some of the alocasia world. So I will ride that bandwagon, but every other alocasia, not so much, but still I will probably never grow an Alocasia Frydek in my home because of the fact that I just can't deal with the excessive amount of pests that come with them. So skipping alocasias probably for the rest of my plant career, unless I was growing them outside. If I was working with an outdoor space, maybe if I had more space in the summertime, or if I ever moved to a more tropical climate, I would love to grow some alocasias outside because they would do so well. But all the factors growing them inside, I just can't deal with it. And the last one I want to talk about today is also kind of a group of plants. It's Opuntias, which are prickly pear cacti or bunny ear cacti. There are so many different names for them, but they're the cacti that have kind of like the paddle shape to them. And they are the worst. They just have these little tiny spines. They're called glaucids. That's different from like a serious cactus that you can just kind of like run your finger along the spines, and it kind of feels kind of nice if you do it carefully. You can't do that with an Opuntia because they're all gonna get stuck in your finger, and it's just the worst. And I'm probably a little biased because I work around plants and I am not a cacti lover at all. But when I get the cacti in, I am so careful to not go anywhere near the Opuntias with my fingers as I'm moving the crates around, because I just do not want that. And sometimes you have to like reach your hand inside the crates and you can't see because we get like multiple crates. It's kind of hard to explain, but oh, I've stuck my fingers in there before and gone right into an Opuntia, and it's just the worst. There's this one variety, I can't even remember the name of it. I'll include a picture on screen. I'm pretty sure it's the same species as like the standard bunny ear cactus, they call it, but it's got red glaucids instead of white, and that one is the bane of my existence. I cannot stand it. If I had to pick one of the Opuntias that is like my least favorite, that is the one. In fact, I always think about this time at work where a girl came up to the counter with a little one and she didn't want a bag, and I was just like, be a little careful because they're a little mean. And she goes, what? It's so sweet, and rubbed her whole finger across it, and I was like, it was like nails on the chalkboard, even though there was no sound going on. It was just the worst. And she didn't say anything, but I could see her just like picking at her finger. I use duct tape to get the spines out at work. I've read online that you shouldn't do that, but it works really well for me. So maybe don't take my word for it, but it does work really well for me. But yeah, that's about it. I think we should cut it out with the negativity for today. And yeah, I hope you guys aren't too heartbroken about my opinions, but I thought this would be just kind of a fun little video to make a little different than the normal videos that I make. I'd actually really like to hear what kind of plants that are more on the popular, overrated end of the spectrum that you guys might not necessarily care for. I think it's a really fun topic. Keep it light. It's not spreading hate, it's just sharing opinions, but I think it's kind of fun to talk about this because we always talk about the plants we love, but we don't really talk about the plants that we hate. So anyway, thank you guys so much for joining. Sorry again if I broke any hearts. If you don't already, follow me on Instagram at Philly Foliage, subscribe to my channel, and I will see you guys in my next video. Have a great day!